Hey there folks, tonight we're diving headfirst into the wild world of global finance. Buckle up as we unravel the tale of the US dollar, a currency that's been sitting pretty at the top of the global food chain for decades. It's the currency everyone loves to use, hates to see rise, and can't seem to live without. But hold on to your hats, because the dollar's grip on global power might be loosening. We're talking about a seismic shift in the global economic landscape, a change that could redefine how countries trade, interact, and flex their financial muscles. You see, for the better part of the last century, the US dollar has reigned supreme as the world's reserve currency. Like that one friend who always gets to pick the restaurant, the dollar has called the shots in international trade. But just like your friend who insists on ordering pineapple on pizza, the dollar's dominance is starting to wear thin for some. From the bustling streets of Beijing to the bustling markets of Mumbai, a growing chorus of nations are looking for alternatives, eager to break free from the dollar's grasp. This isn't just about economic theory, it's about power, influence, and the future of the global order. So how did we get here? What led to the dollar's rise to prominence, and what challenges lie ahead? Join us as we explore the fascinating and often turbulent history of the US dollar and its impact on the world. You might just learn something. To understand the dollar's current predicament, we need to hop in a time machine and zip back to 1944. Picture this. World War II is raging, and the global economy is about as stable as a Jenga tower built on a roller coaster. Enter the Bretton Woods Agreement, a historic gathering of world leaders determined to prevent another economic meltdown. They agreed to tie their currencies to the US dollar, which was directly backed by gold. It was like giving the dollar a shiny gold medal and declaring it the MVP of global currencies. This system worked pretty darn well for a while. It stabilized exchange rates, boosted global trade, and helped rebuild war-torn economies. The US dollar became the kingpin, the go-to currency for international transactions, and central banks around the world started hoarding dollars like they were going out of style. But as with any good party, it couldn't last forever. By the late 1960s, cracks began to appear in this seemingly unshakable system. The US was grappling with inflation, a ballooning trade deficit, and the costs of the Vietnam War. The gold standard, once the bedrock of the Bretton Woods system, was starting to feel the strain. Countries began demanding gold in exchange for their dollar reserves, putting a serious dent in Fort Knox's stash. Something had to give, and give it did, with a bang, when President Nixon made a move that would reverberate through the halls of global finance for decades to come. Now let's fast forward to the 1970s, a decade marked by groovy music, questionable fashion choices, and a seismic shift in the global financial order. This was the decade that brought us disco and the petrodollar, two things that sadly did not age as well as we might have hoped. With the Bretton Woods system on its last legs, the US needed a new game plan to maintain the dollar's global dominance. Enter the petrodollar system, a stroke of financial genius or manipulation, depending on your perspective. In a nutshell, the US struck a deal with Saudi Arabia, the heavyweight champion of oil production. The Saudis agreed to price their oil exclusively in US dollars, and in return, the US promised military protection and support for the Saudi regime. This was a win-win for both sides, at least in the short term. The Saudis got their security guarantees, and the US ensured that the global demand for dollars remained sky high. You see, because oil is the lifeblood of the global economy, this agreement had a ripple effect. Countries around the world suddenly needed US dollars to buy oil, not just from Saudi Arabia, but from other oil-producing nations that followed suit. This created a perpetual demand for dollars, propping up the US economy and cementing the dollar's position as the world's reserve currency. But like a disco ball losing its sparkle, the petrodollar system had its downsides. It made the US economy vulnerable to oil price shocks, fueled geopolitical tensions in oil-rich regions, and, some argue, gave the US an unfair advantage in the global economy. Section 4, Nixon's Gambit, breaking free from gold and unleashing volatility. Remember that little problem we mentioned earlier about countries demanding gold for their dollar reserves? Well, in 1971, President Richard Nixon decided to tackle it head-on, like a rogue trader on a caffeine bender. He shocked the world by announcing that the US dollar would no longer be convertible to gold, effectively ending the Bretton Woods system. It was a bold move, a bit like replacing your car's engine while barreling down the highway. This decision, known as the Nixon shock, sent shockwaves through the global financial system. Currencies were left to float freely against each other, leading to increased volatility and uncertainty. It also paved the way for the floating exchange rate system we know and love today, a system where currency values are determined by market forces like supply and demand. While some argue that Nixon's move was necessary to address the economic challenges of the time, others believe it sowed the seeds of instability in the global financial system. It also marked a turning point in the relationship between the US dollar and the rest of the world. No longer tethered to gold, the dollar's value was now determined by market forces and, crucially, by the policies of the US government.